Today's project starts with a 1.5-inch thick flat bar piece of aluminum. Now they're 8 foot long, so we're going to measure it out to 4 foot and make our first mark. That's the halfway point. Next, we're going to need a 5-gallon and a 1-gallon bucket. Those are going to make great templates. Starting with the 5-gallon and the halfway mark, we're going to go ahead and bend this aluminum around the 5-gallon bucket. Now take your time, do it right, and go ahead and just bend it around. It takes a little bit of effort, and when you get all the way around, we're going to take a clamp and use that to pull the sides together. Go gentle, we just want to get it right together. Then we're going to use those clamps as the place to bend it 90 degrees. We're going to bend this out. Take your time, work one stick at a time, and once you get it bent out, you can release the clamp. The next step is to measure 12 inches down from the bend and use the 1-gallon bucket as a template. We're going to use that mark and start bending it around the bucket. Again, go slow and be methodical and get it all bent around. Once you do one side, you're going to do the other and bend it the opposite direction. This is going to be our top piece. We're going to set this aside and go ahead and mark 4 foot on the other 8 foot section. This one though, we're going to bend right in half. Now, use the clamp if you need to, but don't bend it too much. We don't want it to crease. We're going to measure down 12 inches on both sides. So once you get that first mark on there, go ahead and flip it over and make your other 12-inch mark. Now, once you got this, again, use that 1-gallon bucket and go ahead and twist it all the way around 180 degrees. Use the clamp if you need to, and once you get one side, you're going to go ahead and do the other. These are going to be the legs of our figure. Once you got those two little parts left, you're going to mark 4 inches down, and this is the tricky part. These have to be bent at 90 degrees. So I clamped it to the table and I pushed it down. We're going to do this on both ends. Now, the reason it's hard to do is because there's not a lot to work with, just that 4-inch part, but go ahead and clamp it and you'll get it. If you need to use the other clamp, go ahead and do that also. Once you get it bent, let's go ahead and put it back together. We're going to use clamps to bring it together. What we need to do is use some self-tapping screws that are 1/2 inch wide and drill it together. Both sides we're going to do this with. On the top, it looks like the neck came apart a little bit just because the aluminum is bendable. So we're going to make a little scarf for our little figure here. And we're going to use that to bring the pieces together just so it looks like it's the right proportion. And it's going to be ready to go. Watch this now. We're going to go ahead and set this next to the Christmas tree. And look what we got. We got us a super large cookie cutter. And it looks great. And it can hang on the wall also. And the great thing about it is it can go outside. Because it's made of aluminum, it won't rust and it'll last a long time. I hope you enjoyed making this large cookie cutter as much as I did. For this super cool Christmas project, we're going to start with a concrete form tube. 12 inches will be just perfect for this. You can pick this up at any hardware store. First thing we got to do is make a base. This is 18 inches by 18 inches. We're going to find the middle at 9 inches and mark an X. We're going to use this starting point to go 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other. That's how we're going to measure for the legs of the nutcracker that we're going to put together. Now, this is the hard part. We've got to drill through the base 2 screws for each leg in order to hold it together. Once you do this, we got to put it upside down on top of the legs. That way we can screw through the bottom and into the legs. This will make it nice and sturdy. Once we got it secure, go ahead and turn it back over and you can see it's super strong. Next, we got to take the form tube that we have and cut out a piece of wood that'll fit on the inside. Once you mark it, cut just on the inside of the line and that way it will form right over the tube. Once you got the cutout done, go ahead and drill 2 holes, one for each leg. Once you get these pilot holes drilled, you can go ahead and put the 2.5-inch screws in. This will make it super strong and it holds it. Next thing we got to do is put the tube on top of the wood. We're going to slide it right into place and drill some pilot holes that are going to go through the tube and into the side of the wood. Put some screws in that'll hold it in place. That'll again strengthen this right up and keep it where we need it. Next, let's go down on our 33-inch tube, down 11 inches. That's where we're going to put one of the arms. Our arms are made out of 3.5-inch PVC pipe. I picked up this foam piece from the Dollar Tree. Go ahead and slide it back and forth and you're going to run some glue around it and that's going to hold it in place. On top of the pipe, we're going to put a cap. This is going to be like the shoulder blade, part of the uniform. Put it right at that 11-inch mark, take some screws and drill it through, and it'll hold it in place. Once we got the arms on, it's time to prime it. Primer is so important on a project like this. You want the paint to stick and look good when it goes on. Primer is the way to do it. We're going to go through and prime everything on this project. It'll cover up the lettering, and we're also going to do the same for the wood, legs, and the base. Make sure you get it nice and even on there. While we're waiting for the primer to dry, I went ahead and grabbed a 5-gallon bucket that I painted black, and I started putting some gold bands around it. This is the top of the helmet. This one's going to get a shorter, skinnier band. I used some hot glue and put it right around the edge and go all the way around, putting the band in place. We can do this all the way around. Be careful not to burn yourself. Just put it as you go. On the bottom, I'm going to use a little bit of a thicker band. I want it to stand out a little bit. We're going to do it just like we did with the top. Put a little bit of hot glue and just work your way around. Make it nice and even, put it on. Once you get it all put on and ready to go, it's time to bring the project back in and look at that nice white primer on it. Gives you a blank canvas to start. Again, we're going to go down 11 inches. Mark it around because that's going to be where our head goes. The rest of it, which is 22 inches, will be our body. And this is where it gets exciting. We're going to start painting. Again, this is the head, so we're going to paint all the way around using our paint. Color choice. I use a foam brush. I get it to where it comes on and goes on nice and even. You're going to need multiple coats, so go ahead and just put it on kind of nice and light. Make it look good. Next we got to do is we got to work on his boots. We need to make sure the line is straight across. So I use a square to make a line across. Make sure they're both even. Once I do that, it's time to paint his jeans. And those are going to be blue. I went with a kind of a darker blue and put it on. As you can see, the first coat is not the best, but we're going to use multiple coats. 2 should do it. If you want to go with 3, go for it. Once we get this all on right where the boots are, it's time to put his laces on. We don't want them boots falling off. Again, use the same lace that he used for the top of the helmet, which is the bucket, and put some X's down there. We want to use some hot glue to put those on. Remember, go easy. We don't want to burn ourselves on that hot glue. And just make an X. Don't worry about the ends. I went ahead and painted some gold-colored wood pieces that I got from the hobby store. Put those on, and we're going to go up and down the boot with it and give it just some nice design. Next, whenever paint joins another color, we want to put a ribbon around it. Just makes it look good and makes his uniform look spectacular. We're going to do this around his neck and then around his shoulder pads. We're going to go ahead and put some garland on. We got this from the Dollar Tree. Nice and inexpensive. Next, it's time to put that hair on that goes right over his ears. This one is from the Dollar Tree, and it's actually a dust mop. So I trimmed it to fit, put some hot glue on it, worked my way up, and glued it as I went up. And I can't believe how spectacular it turned out. Looks so good. Just goes right on there and sticks perfectly. Now it's time for the nose. Little piece of cut wood, hot glued on with a triangle look, and there it is. Looks great. Next, I outlined his whiskers. That's going to go on there for his mustache, and then we're going to use some black paint to paint it in. Go nice and slow on this. We want to make it look good. This is what's going to grab everybody's attention. Now that cut piece of dust mop that I used on the side of the head, I had a little bit left over. I'm going to use it for his goatee on the bottom. Now it's time to put him in place, give him his helmet, and look at that. This is our Nutcracker. I think I'm going to call him Blue Eyes because of the spectacular way we got his eyes to look. He just looks amazing standing there. And guess what? He turned out to be 6 foot tall. He stands guard over the Christmas tree and all the presents that'll come. I hope this inspired you to build your own life-size Nutcracker doll. Thanks for watching Hometalk, and we'll see you next time.